Hey everyone, it's Call the Manufacturing Millennial. We are here in Scranton, Pennsylvania, just down the road actually from Dunder Mifflin. Not really, but it's the joke I wanted to lead off with. And we're actually here at Robotics, division of J&J Snack Food. It's a popular company which you probably had products out of at every single ballpark or football game or Little League or at store that you've purchased from. And we're going to talk more about them a little bit later, but just to introduce the table here, we have Daryl Timmick. We have Peter Wafalco, get that right?
Yep.
Wafalco, and then of course Joe and Mike from PSA Systems. We're excited to be here today. So I guess to kick things off with, I always love people understanding how the products that they consume, maybe not consume in this case every day. If they do, they might need to look at their sweet intake, but just how manufacturing and production just relates to people. So I guess to start with, can you tell a little bit about the products that you guys consume? I consume and I guess manufacture and produce here and consume on the side as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, so if you're familiar with Icy at all, or Luigi's Italian Ice, I'm sure those are probably our biggest. That is our company. We produce every flavor here, and up until just a short period ago, probably within the last year and a half, every cup of Luigi's you would have seen came from this plant. So we do the Icy retail, Luigi, we do Dogsters, which is a huge growing product. That's our pet ice cream treat. And just about everything else you see on the wall here. Large format for things like stadiums, retail ice cream vendor, a whole slew of products.
So it's one of those things where, hey, you go to a baseball game or really any sports arena, pretty much in general.
Pretty much.
You get one of those frozen sorbets or the push pops or the push tube things.
Yep.
You're getting that product that was made here right in Scranton, Pennsylvania,
right
which is one of those things. I think it's just crazy to think about where, Scranton, Pennsylvania obviously is world-renowned for the Office TV show, but way before the Office even existed, they were not even realizing they were consuming products right here in this area. So I guess to talk more about it, we have PSA as a systems integrator or robotic, manufacturing company that brings a lot of cool technologies and solutions to the market, and some of those are on the floor today. Can we talk more about just how automation's transforming your industry and the products that you're manufacturing?
Sure, yeah. I mean, Mia Products kind of started back in 1983, 1984, and that's when it was acquired by J&J Snack. And J&J, the story of J&J is a very interesting one. It really started with Jerry Schreiber, who had purchased a pretzel factory in Jersey on auction, which is now Super Pretzel. And that's really how J&J Snack got its start. So that had just developed from if you can't beat them, buy them.
Yeah.
And I think now J&J Snack produces the vast majority of frozen pretzels, and also, we wanted to complement. You get a pretzel at a ballpark, you get an Icy, you get Luigi's.
Yes, that's what I mentioned about why you're consuming everything at an arena. I'll put a picture of the pretzel here. You guys can edit that in post, but it's one of those things is my wife eats those pretzels. So we were driving in and there was that sign out front and I'm like, holy cow, I literally had that and that and that at Wrigley with my kids.
Yep.
Last game, and you don't even realize that all of that is being made by J&J Snack and some of that product's right here in this facility.
And the most recent acquisition, if you're familiar with Dippin' Dots.
Never heard of them. My kids don't want them every single time we go to wherever.
So we now have that within the J&J portfolio as well. So it's really hard to go to a ballpark or a stadium and not run into a J&J product. Yeah. But getting back to your earlier question about automation, everything that started here was a small facility and then 3 walls and a roof, and a lot of it was manual labor. I think here at MIA we've kind of been at the forefront for automation in terms of robotic pack outs, very early cup assembly and pack out for our K through 12, our school cups. And then, within the last 10, 15 years, all of the Luigi products and our Icy products, and a lot of that has been through the assistance of PSA.
People tend not to realize just how much goes on in your hometown, and this is not unique to our industry, but in particular here, you don't tend to think of all the automation that goes into something like a pop-up tube or even a cup of Italian ice. Just the amount of handling and even robotic interface. We've added a great deal of automation in the last 3 to 4 years. Pete has made large investments in integration and upgrades and being at really the forefront of technology in the entire J&J family. So there's a great deal that happens, a lot of interesting science right here in your hometown, just behind the simple food that you eat.
I guess my next question is, when you are looking at automation solutions through vision, robotics, high-speed picking, sortation, how do you as an end user determine what is a buzz of opportunity versus what is a realistic solution when you're getting pitched products, if that makes sense? Like, how do you, because there's so many different things that are being released, exactly. How do you sort through the fluff of what people tell you is capable of being done through automation at a very high expense, high risk, high investment versus what is, the best solution for a company like J&J?
I think one of our superpowers is mitigating risk, right?
Yeah.
Daryl and I are both very active on the floor, so we know the pain points of the folks out there. And number one is, if we can make it a safer operation, if we can make it easier for the folks out there. And there's a large misconception, and you talk about this in a lot of your other videos, of automation replacing headcount. And that's really not the case. We're adding skilled labor positions into the facility. We're making the process easier. We're making it safer and more efficient. So anytime we're looking at new automation, there's a lot of cool, fancy stuff out there, but unless it checks those boxes, we're not going to move forward with it.
How does your labor force feel about automation?
It's interesting. In the beginning, you always are apprehensive about that. How are the folks on the floor going to take to it? But I would say that they've wholeheartedly embraced it. And embracing the automation comes from he and I doing our jobs effectively and making it easy for them to use, right? And PSA is involved in that as well. Yeah. If you bring in a piece of automation and just hand it to your folks out on the floor and say, here you go, it's not going to be very well received. You have to make sure that you've got training programs, and that from the beginning, your end vision is communicated to them as well, and they see the impact.
So, yeah, that's great. So I guess that's a great transition over to PSA. When you're developing solutions and you walk in through a facility like this and you're, looking at the products they're making, you're testing the products that they're making along the way and making sure they're up to quality standards, coming out of the freezer. But, how do you understand the needs of what an end user is looking for, and then how do you create the best solution for them that's going to go then on their floor?
Yeah, so much like the team, at J&J, they're interested in mitigating risk. So are we as a solution provider. So we like to collaborate with the client. They know their process very well, and we know the industry equipment that could make up a solution to help solve their problem. So by collaborating, understanding what what some of their risks they may see internally and what we see as far as what solutions can be and equipment, together we can come up with a solution that makes a whole lot of sense to meet their demand as far as production requirements.
Yeah, I also think it goes back to the PSA core skill set and the 30, 40, 50 years of experience from the staff. We take the experiences from all of our projects into even J&J's projects. The things that work for us, that don't work for us, that we've seen fail in other companies, we try not to repeat those problems over again.
So what surprises you most about this industry? When you go home and or you go to a bar, you go to a family reunion or a class reunion, you talk with your friends and you say, oh yeah, this is what I do. I work in the manufacturing and production facility that's making these icy, these push pops and these frozen, sorbets that are getting pushed out. Like, what surprises you most about your job and the world that we live in of manufacturing?
I would just say the lack of understanding of where your everyday food products come from. There's a lot of folks out there that, you think of manufacturing, that this was made somewhere in a factory, but a lot of the time when I tell, people I know that it's made right here in Scranton, they're like, wait, what, where? And all of Luigi's is made out of Scranton. Now we are making some down in Florida, but it's just really interesting to see folks' reaction when you mention a product that they love and that's in their house all the time, and then they get some insight of how it's made. Yeah. And it's always a cool interaction.
Yeah, it makes it a little more warm and fuzzy. Probably also how dynamic it is. you don't realize how much change and how much innovation is in the industry until you're behind it and you're trying to keep up with that to make sure you stay ahead. People like novel.
Yeah.
You want to give them a product that they can appreciate, that is a good product for them, that will just give them that fun. So yeah.
So labor and workforce is a challenge that every industry is facing. I think the food and bev industry really faced that challenge when the pandemic happened, when we had essential workers and food was classified as an essential product that continued to be manufactured. But then all of a sudden, we found out that labor and human labor was a high risk asset when it comes to that. How do you as a company navigate the world of, we need human workers to complete and accomplish the tasks, but we also need automation to improve productivity and safety? How do we keep that healthy balance of that as an industry?
One of the things that we pride ourselves on at J&J is culture, and maintaining employee culture, maintaining employee safety. So, for us going through the pandemic and still being allowed to produce goods, we went through a lot of measures here, and I think we hardly shut down much at all. Maybe there was a couple-week gap where we shut operations down to some degree, but it's really about the people and taking care of them. And we pride ourselves on that, and just making sure that they're coming into an environment that they feel comfortable working in.
Give them free snacks too along the way.
They have their own icy machine that they could tap from whenever they want.
Geez.
So,
oh man,
get a sample
a
that later.
24/7 icy machine on the floor.
Yep.
Always available.
You guys got it good here in Scranton. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I tell you that.
So
So
they were actually executing a project though during that time frame, right? During the pandemic time frame.
Yeah. So that actually took up a lot of bandwidth, and we shut a few lines down to implement, one of the largest robotic projects I think in J&J history. We've got 10 ABB IRB 360s that PSA helped integrate. So that was a huge project. We kind of took that opportunity during the lull in the pandemic to put that in place, and it's been a fantastic addition to the floor.
So when I'm thinking 10 of those, we're talking a multi-million-dollar project and investment from a risk standpoint.
Sure.
How do you, as production managers and leaders within a organization, how do you go to the higher ups of a J&J and be like, let's adopt this type of automation solution? Because all of a sudden, I'm assuming that they're looking at that budget and downtime and cost and risk, and they're saying, well, is the old way not good enough? So how do you, convince this next level up of the people who sign the check to be like, no, automation is the future, and it's going to help us improve down the road? Like, what was that those steps that you took to communicate, we can't stay here, we have to go here?
Well, I think there's always a pros and cons list, right? What the cons list is that big upfront investment.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned before, when we've got improved safety, improved efficiency, and improved throughput, quite honestly, a lot of those things tend to go in favor of an ROI, right? So everyone wants that big shiny ROI, but what does that really mean? And when we were heading into a shortage in the labor force, and we had a robotic system that took the place of having maybe 15 to 20 hand laborers perform a task, we didn't remove those folks from the facility. We were able to displace them over to another part of the facility where we needed it. So, when the numbers hit the paper, it was a pretty clear and steadfast decision.
So this machine was completely hand?
It was a combination.
It was a combination?
There was a large amount of hand packing though for assistance.
Can you describe to the audience of what this machine does?
So if you can imagine our icy tubes, 3 flavor tubes, we pack them into a very large box. We'll call it a club box. You have a system that integrates vision, the robotics control. We use Robot Studio, and these flex picker bots. So if you can kind of picture 2 lanes with the product coming down, you have these camera systems that identify the tube. They actually use AI and deep learning. So it's not like the olden days where you would take an image and tell the camera what to look at. You feed it images and say, please learn this. And then it spits out what it learned, and then you help to train it. So it'll identify your tubes, and it can determine what's what position, what shape, and then it knows, okay, I need to pick 10 of this, 5 of that, 10 of that, It knows the position of each box, the position of each tube. Each bot knows what each other bot is picking, and it will iteratively fill your product cases as they come down. It's quite efficient and very ingenious.
That's awesome. Okay, so ABB, Delta picking robots,
ABB, yep.
and then Cognex Vision.
Cognex Vision.
Okay.
Yep.
And
There was a learning curve to that, to the vision system and to the pattern matching.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that's just one of those things where the growth of technology is really simplifying. I want to say simplifying automation. I think that makes it too light, but it's making automation more capable.
Oh, definitely.
And I remember when I was doing vision starting back in 2013 for projects, and then all the way up to 2022 when I was, kind of stepped out of that role of vision programming. It's amazing to see what has happened through, Cognex and ViDi and all these other AI tools and solutions out there that makes these projects capable that wouldn't have been capable 15, 20 years ago with like a DVT or a Cognex or, an older data logic brand PPT
Definitely.
solution. It's amazing to see how technology is making automation really at the end of the day a de-risked solution for your team. Because I think if a technology like that didn't exist, this whole entire project, the same thing with, you could argue also with like high-speed Delta robots, right? If it's one of those things where those robots didn't have that capability and the technology or the ability where software could communicate from one robot's position to another robot's position, you would have crashing. And, now when you have all of these working at almost a neural network,
Exactly.
it makes technology and this process capable.
Yep.
And there's a good point there too, just how far technology and robotics and automation have come. I think we had a set of the first IRB 340s that ever existed. They were
Yes.
out on the floor for close to
Vintage.
15 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And we
Did you sell those back in?
No, we did not. But yeah, it had the original Pickmaster software.
Yeah.
That was so there was iterations of Pickmaster that have been going on years and years and years have been developed, and they were still running on Gen 1 of a Pickmaster.
Yeah.
They can only upgrade it so far with the controllers that they had. So it came a time where it was like needs to be just
move forward.
We went
Better
from
bring new technology.
eight bots and several people hand packing and just kind of a labyrinth of conveyors to a very clean system with 10 robots and 0 people hand packing. And that's just, I attribute that to a lot of the investments in the technology.
And I think the one thing to acknowledge as well from a business perspective, right? While you're improving productivity across the board, across that product, when J&J Snack, who's going through acquisitions, who's buying things, who's making their products, but also doing some contract, I think, manufacturing as well, when you can go in there and saying, hey, look at the technology that we do to make the product. It's not just from a production side, it's from a sales side, it's from a business investment side. When you can say, hey, we're a leading food and bev manufacturing company that's adopting the latest technology, it's just a big push for you guys
It's a selling
going forward.
point.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I'd just like to say, with the system that we have out there, and we talked about earlier about de-risking and taking on a project of this magnitude, and PSA, understanding the complexity of the solution, we did leverage some partners, and it would be probably remiss if we didn't say the partners that we leveraged. So we did mention ABB, but ABB has a certain value-add solution that they can provide. It really helps integrators like a PSA. So we use their Delta robot flex picker, what they call their single robot cell or their dual robot cell. So we leverage their value add levels because they can go from just a bare robot all the way up to some sort of a solution. So develop their frame, the robot in the frame, the controls package up above, all wired and ready.
Yeah.
So that we get it, we receive it. Now we provide end of arm tool. We add camera systems, which we partner with Cognex on. So by taking that value add together, it kind of de-risks the magnitude of the project for PSA. So I thought it should have been, we should say that. I mean, it was a partnership and a collaboration among many to make this the solution possible.
And I think that's what makes just automation so unique is, You have all these different places that are all bringing their knowledge, their experience into it. And I think that's just the automation community as a whole. Like, we're going forward because we're sharing our experiences with others and saying, hey, you know what, maybe the end of arm tooling, we haven't been out there yet, but maybe the end of arm tooling is not the best option. We should go with something like this because I had to pick something like this, very similar to other project, and instead of air, we should look at grippers or soft gripping technology, or and the way we're picking, there's a different, more efficient routine on how we grab components to save cycle time. Like, that's just all knowledge that comes through experience in the industry.
That's exactly how that played out.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, there you go.
Right. And we
You're
were
the
able to-
foreshadowing of
Yeah, and we're
of
kind
what
of able
came.
to simulate, if you could, like in Robot Studio with the Pickmaster Digital Twin, simulate their product at rate coming down the pick belt with the amount of robots that we have, and it's very close to what reality ended up being when you look at how the system runs when it's flowing, right? You can see how we said, well, you have this many robots, but in reality, to clear this pick belt, you're probably going to maybe have one just to pick up some scraps that maybe gets by. And in reality today, that's kind of the thing that's really happening. So it's ingenious that you have this technology, right? These virtual simulations that you can do that actually mimic real life productivity and productions.
There you go. Awesome. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much, J&J Snack Foods, for sharing your story of automation and manufacturing production moving forward. And of course, if you want to learn more, check out some more information in the comments below. We'll see you soon.